Hello, everybody, and welcome to Believe. This is your place to learn more about the spiritual nature of the world we live in. My name is Laine Crosby, and I'm the host and producer of Believe, and I'm here today with Dave Juliano. Dave is what is commonly referred to as a demonologist, although he does not like that title. Dave is a sensitive and has the gift of discernment. He's worked with John Zaffis, Adam Bly, and other names you would recognize in the field of demonology. His focus is to help anyone who is scared of the paranormal situation and provide help to those in extreme situations and cases of demonic activity. Dave also does consultations with independent investigators and groups when they need assistance on a negative case. He is an ordained member of the clergy, and because of this calling, he also performs deliverances and exorcisms when deemed necessary. Dave's background is in law enforcement and private security, and he is graduate of the Cape May Police Academy and Camden County College, where he majored in history and world religions. Dave has appeared on various shows on the History Channel, the Travel Channel, National Geographic Channel, and other media. He is now a cast member of the TV show Ghost Detectives, seen on Fox and the CW. He lectures at events and conferences all over the country and has a wide range of topics, from ghost hunting basics to demonology. Dave has been investigating haunted locations, consulting on cases, and helping people for 35 years. He also has classes in ghost investigating and has trained hundreds of ghost investigators. In 1994, he began the internet's first paranormal website with a specific focus on ghosts called the Shadowlands. And here people can find a safe haven to share their experiences and spirit activity and to seek comfort along with advice. Sanctuary Paranormal is Dave's resolution-based team, and they deal with negative hauntings. Dave is also a prolific writer. He's authored Positive Energy for Haunted Homes, Ghost Research 101, Investigating Haunted Homes, Armor of God, and Ghost Hunting 101, plus numerous articles posted on the Shadowlands website. He owns the Ghost Hunter store at theghosthunterstore.com online and Haunted Exploration Events at hauntedexplorationevents.com. Dave lives in Philadelphia with his wife, Michelle, and his website is davejuliano.com. Welcome, Dave. So glad to have you here.
That's the end of the show, right? That just took up so much
I
time.
know.
That always blows my mind. It's like, wow, how many people are clicking away because it's still come back and it's still doing the bio. Just to clarify one thing, I was a cast member of the Ghost Detectives for 2 seasons. I don't think that's even a thing anymore, but it still lives on YouTube.
Right, right. So I'm so glad that you're here today, and I'm glad to be able to call you my friend. And you have helped me so much in the past, and we will talk a little bit about that. But I don't know if you know how I actually knew about you, how I come to meet you. I know you're in Philadelphia, so
Hmm.
we both go to Gettysburg and do a lot of investigations. And um, I guess I first started working on some murder cases. I had gone for years doing kind of investigations and not having to deal with the dark side. And then I had a really bad one. And I needed help and I needed prayers. And my husband went online and found Armor of God, your book. And this is the greatest book. And I tell everybody, and even when I wrote How to Cleanse Spirit Energy, um, I, I tell everybody to go buy this book. Step one, go buy Dave's book because it has so many great prayers in it. So I keep one in my car, by my bed, and here in my studio.
I should have grabbed mine out of my bag because I all the little post-it notes and the little page holders and stuff like that, it's covered with it. It's got like, feathering on all the sides because it was something. It wasn't meant to be a book. It was my 3-ring binder that grew over time and time as I was going out and doing different events or different cases and things like that where I needed something different. I would find something, look it up, and I would just add the pages in there. And then one day I was looking at the Word document, and it's like, wow, I put chapters in there and table of contents. It's a book, and maybe if I'm using it, other people could use it too. And I like getting that feedback because that makes me feel like it was worth putting it all together and that's being helpful.
Oh, it is. It's funny that you say that because the How to Cleanse Spirit Energy book, which I have. I told you before, that was a blog that happened to get so many hits. I thought, I got to make this a Kindle and just stick it up there. And so it was like a 20-page, started out as a 20-page Kindle book. And just to kind of help people out. And that's
Right.
so our books, our haphazard books have been probably our best
Yeah.
sellers.
Unplanned. But yeah, the other ones
Right,
were I
unplanned.
sat down trying to write a book. This was the unplanned one that I realized, well, and that's obviously the one that was the I guess the more well known of all of them, and it
Yeah.
just kind of makes me smile a little bit because I wasn't intending to write a book. So, but if it works, it works.
It's great. Yeah, it definitely works. I have all the hedge prayers and I do those a lot. A lot. I do them a lot.
Yeah, they come in handy, definitely.
So, why don't you like to be called a demonologist?
I think I'm kind of just growing into it and kind of accepting it. I finally put the word demonology, not demonologist, but demonology on my business card. It was because there were so many people running around that were calling themselves demonologists, and I think that like they read one of the Warrens books or one of John's books, or maybe watched a movie or some TV shows or something like that, and then all of a sudden they think it's like they can go out and do it, and
Yeah.
it's not that simple, and it's dangerous.
Yeah.
But people were contacting these people, they were messing stuff up, and then my group would come in and we'd have to fix it. But now we don't have to fix just what the problem was initially. We have to undo what the people who didn't know what they were doing and fix that. So now we have a compounded, situation. So that kind of turned me off for the whole word. When you walk through like the floor of an expo or one of the paranormal events, and you see people with banners, saying exorcist and demonologist, and they tell you how many years they've been doing it, and when you do the math, they would have started when they were about 7.
Yeah.
So that I didn't want to be lumped into all that.
Right. I understand that.
So, and the people judge that because if they know those people first and then they see me, it's guilty by association. We're all charlatans. And so, unfortunately now I put it out there simply to let people know, because some people are kind of shopping for that kind of help. So in order for them to find me, I kind of have to associate those words now. Begrudgingly, I'm coming to accept it a little more.
Wow, Dave. You know, I didn't know until I read your bio that you are the originator of the Shadowlands website. And I have to tell you, I love that site. But when I first, gosh, it's been, well, when I started my job at the Weather Channel, I remember I used to just kind of take breaks and go on that website and, schedule my lunch so I could just sit there and read. And that was like 1995, 1996. So it's been around a while. And there were so many stories. It was just growing so fast. And there was a story that reminded me of a story that I had as a child. And I never really understood what was going on with me because from time to time, I saw some dark entities growing up. And I saw this probably about 3 feet tall. It looked like a big, um, a big monkey, with your red eyes, and it was staring at me from the corner of the room. And since then, I have had children draw me pictures of these that in haunting situations. Now, I'm sure you've probably heard of that.
Oh, I lived that.
You have lived that. Tell me
Yeah,
about that. Tell us.
that's the house I grew up with was haunted, and it was human spirits, but it was the 70s. So 1970, I was 3 years old, and that's the first time I saw something. And it was terrifying, and as I got older, it was still terrifying, but they weren't doing anything threatening. It was, I mean, your only reference point for ghosts back then was whatever Saturday afternoon, like Creature Double Feature, Dr. Shock horror movie was on, that kind of stuff. So, and in all those movies, the ghosts are trying to do you harm. um so I eventually I just, my neighbor was into the spiritual stuff, and I talked to her about it, and she told me, just tell them that they're scaring you and you want them to leave. So I did that, And then I was telling one person. So there was a one person I guess I trusted early on, and I drew them a picture, and of what the one spirit was, and they said, "Oh my God, that looks like an infant with water on the brain." And I'm like, and then I'm like, well, the infant wasn't trying to scare me. Maybe it needed help, or it wanted something, wanted me to do something. So I did the stupidest thing you could possibly do, but at the time, I didn't know. I invited it back. But when I invited it back, I wasn't really precise because there was multiple spirits. I assumed that there was an older man that was there. So I told him, everyone come back. Well, I didn't know that there were darker things lurking in the area. So when I invited everything back, they accepted the invitation, which
Mm.
means I gave them permission to be there. So I went through like 2 or 3 years of hell, and it started with those little imps, is what I used to
Yeah.
call them.
Yeah.
I was told early on by someone that helped me in the beginning of the Shadowlands because I couldn't answer all the questions, and he was like a regional investigator for the Warrens. He told me they were wood ghosts, is what they were called, and they're like when you have an infestation, you have really low level stuff happening,
Yeah.
and it's kind of like that. They're not particularly dangerous, but they're very, very scary and terrifying.
Yeah.
So they do their job. They get you vulnerable enough that the next stage can kind of move in. I remember sleeping in my car or my mom's car before I had my own car. I remember one night it sounded like the whole upstairs crashed down, and I started seeing them, and it was the lights were still on, which is so it's unusual for that kind of activity to still continue with the lights on. And there was snow on the ground, and I went outside. Um, I stood just like in my socks with no coat for like an hour and a half. Wait, I wasn't going back in, so my mom got home from her meeting. There was no way I was going back into that house because it was just that terrifying. And then, finally, I got through it by I started someone a priest I was going to. Um, I had talked to about that stuff. I didn't even tell the bad stuff to my parents. And he told me to do like the Lord's Prayer and things like that. And one day I just got so frustrated and got so like I guess it was anger, but just anger mixed with apathy. And I'm like, I'm not going to let these things just block me and keep me. They used to corral me in one room, like downstairs in the living room, because I'd be up the night owl. I'd be up late, and then there was a larger figure, like 6 or 7 feet tall, just a black mass. And I got so frustrated, and I just said, "Okay, I don't care." And I just started saying the Lord's Prayer, and I just walked right through it. And I don't even remember how I got to my bed that night. I just woke up, and that bad activity didn't happen again. So I put a Bible on the steps. I put scapulars hanging in different areas that the activity seemed to emanate from. The human spirit aspect did stick around.
Right.
Um, I didn't know that the other stuff never left. I mean, it left the house, but it never left me. They're always off in the distance, waiting for you to make a mistake and allow them back in again. And I didn't realize that till many years later when I was having an exorcism performed on me. Um, I I had been attacked by some other paranormal investigators, and they had intentionally done some spells and thought forms and things like that to come at me. And because of that, and it caught me by surprise because you're not really expecting that. I didn't know until it was like a really full blown infestation and getting worse that this was, it was this bad. Um, I'm getting chills just talking about it. It's
Wow.
some things that it's even though I do all this stuff, it's kind of still uncomfortable to walk down that memory lane a little bit. In that case, I was betrayed by friends. So that's how it got in. And once it did and I was weakened, the stuff that happened to me when I was younger just jumped right back in the fray because it had an opening. So I've done, I guess if you want to call it battle with that spirit in particular, the one entity for years. It pops up all the time. It's never really gone. it may not be bothering me, but it's, it's keeping an eye out for, if you don't walk the straight and narrow or you get weak at some time. Um, when I came home from my bypass surgery, my first night home, it came at me.
Mm.
Michelle, my wife Michelle, she can see the things too. So she saw it before I did. I thought I was just short of breath and I was having, chest palpitations, which is bad when you're home from open heart surgery. And she said she looked over in the TV and she saw the reflection of what was on top of me. So that's why I couldn't breathe. And then
Oh.
next thing I know, she's splashing me with holy water, saying prayers and putting oil on my head, and then all of a sudden it just lifted off. But see, it was that one little moment of where I wasn't 100% protected. So it took the opportunity just to knock on the door and say, hey, anytime, any place, we're still here.
Oh, yeah.
And I've encountered this spirit on cases where it's affecting other people. So they're not exclusive. They'll go around. So it's like when I go on a case and I recognize what's there, that's it's another bad space to be, because I mean, now I guess I have grown accustomed to it, and because it's familiar. So I see this one and I kind of know, okay, this is not only for the client, but maybe it was there to bring me in too. It's another opportunity for, the butting of heads, because now I'm not just as vulnerable as I was before. I kind of know more about it. I know more what to do. So it's more of a confrontation where it's going to push me. I'm going to push back a little bit. And then we go our separate ways and it waits for the next opportunity. But it's not, it's just one of those things. Once you open that door, or the door is opened for you, um, you can't close it. You know,
I call it getting on the radar, you
yeah,
know. And I was doing so much of that. And you know that I never say this is not what I do. I don't say I'm a demonologist. I don't tell people I want to go cleanse your house. And I say I don't want to cleanse your house. Let me help you find a way to, do this yourself, or, through prayer. But um it it just gets so scary, and they come back once you do it. Once they're always kind of watching, and after I did Ghost Brothers Haunted House Guest, um yeah, there was a lot there. I had remote viewed before I went. I tried to get rid of as much as I could before I got there, so I didn't have to deal with as much. What you saw on the show, well, wasn't even the worst of it. The worst of it was the next day. I mean, you don't see the whole weekend that you spend there,
right.
working on it. But that wasn't even it. It didn't. The real awful stuff didn't start till I got home, and then I was under attack for months, and even still am. I mean,
You poke the hornet's nest.
yeah,
And if you do it accidentally, I mean, we're people in the paranormal. We're always at risk of, stepping on that landmine, or, like poking the sleeping bear, or any of the analogies. And when it happens, I make all my investigators on my team, because at South Jersey Ghost Research is like the part of the group that just does regular or typical hauntings. They don't get involved in the bad stuff. But I make all those investigators go through the at least intro to demonology, because
hmm,
I want them to know what the possibility could be. I mean, you're trying to avoid that, obviously, but there's a chance you could be confronted with this. So you should at least know warning signs of what could happen, and why you don't do certain things, because you could bring things in. And then a little, tips and stuff to fight, like hedge prayers and
yeah,
protection prayers, and, objects too, to help you stay more protected. Just more psychic protection, just positive energy around you is a good protection. But
yes.
everybody in the paranormal field should be doing the protection, and should have some basic knowledge of the other bad stuff that's out there. Because if you're on, I've been there. When you're on we call them, we have flags for different kind of cases. So the normal case where there's nothing bad, we call it a green flag case. And there's nothing like being in someone's house in the dark doing your investigation, and you're in there 2 hours, and suddenly you realize that this is not a green flag, this is a red flag. And now it's like you're locked inside with the family and you're not prepared to deal with it.
So tell me an example of when you've seen it go from green flag to red flag all of a sudden. Well, the case where something comes through someone and that you're just talking to, I guess.
Yeah, I've had that too. I think the one that sticks with me the most of going from, you know, green to red. It was a weird haunting because the people were a little weird. Very mechanical, but I noticed when she opened her refrigerator, everything was perfectly aligned, all the soda cans. So I figured I wrote it off as that. It's like, okay, there's, you know, it's some
There,
compulsive disorder.
right.
So I
Purple
figured,
goes.
okay, that's the weirdness that I'm. So it's not that. So the warning signs went down. So we did the
Yeah.
investigation, and I'm in a basement with two other investigators, and the one investigator starts talking about her job, and she was a stay-at-home mom. So I said, "Oh, what's your job?" I thought maybe she got hired, and she goes, "I hate going out, and they make me just move the shrubs around, and I got to dig the garden here. Then they want the garden over there." And when she started talking, like to me, it was nonsense. But then I realized that's not her talking. And at that point, it's one of those like, what was the relationship to that, and then what happened next? I don't know, but because of the discernment, I was able to see a thing coming down the basement stairs, and because the one investigator was doing her, you know, um, forced mediumship, I guess. I don't know. It's like a walk-in, where
Oh,
it suddenly like takes over and then leaves. But that she was
hopefully leave.
dealing with
Yeah.
that. I was focused on her. I look over and this thing's coming down, and there's an investigator over here, um, and totally oblivious to what's coming. So I did what you never do, because I was the more experienced. I
Right.
figured I'm going to get in its way because it's going to just
Oh,
knock her down. I'm going to have to deal with her. And no matter what, you never take the bullet for somebody else, because then you can't help them, and you're not strong enough to block that.
put the
So what
mask
it
on
did,
yourself first.
that was my second exorcism I had to go up to Connecticut to have on me,
Oh
because I
gosh.
was already, when I did that, what I did was I was allowing that thing to come at me, and basically be in my life.
Hmm.
And the other thing that had been following me said stupid, stupid, and just jumped right into. So had to go back up and get cleaned off. And I was told up there, it was Debbie and Larry Elward and John. And, they said it's like, there's a lot of paranormal investigators that have to go up and have that kind of cleansing done. And it's not a bad thing to have, a little bit of dusting off every once in a while, because we are, especially when you start doing the bad cases, you're walking into a lot of just mud and mung that sticks to you, and you don't realize that. So it's a constant thing of cleaning off. But people who do regular investigations or even fun stuff, think of the fun places that we go. I mean, I go to the asylums, I do stuff at prisons and stuff. There's not a lot of happy energy there. So you need to be protected when you go there. And when you leave, you got to kind of wash that stuff off. There's
Yeah.
smudging, there's different thought exercises. I come home and I get a shower because I envision the water
I do that
literally
too.
taking that stuff,
Yeah.
off of me. So everybody has their own technique, but it really needs to be something that everybody does.
Yeah. I get a lot of attachments. So, and that's a question that I had asked you right after I had gone to North Carolina, and I saw you over at Steph's at the Davis Stewart Farm. I'm like,
Hmm.
I think I got this thing following me, you know, and it wasn't so close that it could be seen, but it was, it was enough that I would know from time to time it was there. And um, it's tough. I mean, it finally got rid of it for good. Actually,
See, there's some that are, some people call them watchers. I call them watchers or spotters. When the other side realizes that you are getting too close, and you could be a potential threat, you're strong enough where maybe they know exactly the path you're headed down, that you're going to be someone that fights against them or
yeah,
helps people that they don't want helped. I think it's almost like they assign one of their, lower minions to keep an eye on you and like update. It's like, yeah, yeah, she's really getting too close. I think we need to, amp it up a little bit, give her a little scare.
well, let me ask you something along those lines. thoughts are things, and I can always tell when they've played my show because I get more of that stuff.
Hmm.
So it's worse when the show plays and people are thinking about that, um, than
I think I was telling you before we started that I think this is the first time I've been on anybody's that I've made it to anyone's show in over a year easily. A lot of that, I and again, paranoia plays a role too. Um, People who in demonology are the most paranoid people in the world because it helps keep us safe. But I think that sometimes when I'm not able to do the shows health wise, I think it's because something is putting that pressure on that to keep me from doing it.
yeah,
Because again, maybe I'm going to say something that's going to, that light bulb that goes off someone's head, or that give them some, just that little, they're going to hear the advice I'm saying and they're going to do something, and that's going to protect that person. And they don't want us out there telling other people, what to do,
right,
or give
right.
them the heads up of everything. Is that now you've empowered more people, and that's going against what they want.
But what about when, like, right before you get a call from me to say, what do I do? Or before you get a call from somebody else to come help me, Dave, you know, do you feel it, or do you feel more any it,
My group is unusual, I guess, because at any given time, we have anywhere from like 5 to 12 active cases we're working on. So which case it's coming from, I don't know. Or is it coming from
yeah,
a case I haven't done yet?
right,
I don't know. In the beginning, when we were doing, because we didn't want to do any of those cases, we used to call up John and say, "Hey, can you give us advice?" And we did a couple cases that, you know, together physically where he helped out, and then we started doing things with Adam Bly, where we were kind of his backup team, where we would do all the we would bring in all the equipment, we would hold the incense, we would do the backup stuff while he went through and did the prayers and everything. And, a few years of doing that, I suddenly realized I'm standing there next to him, holding someone down, holding like a relic or a cross on them. And
yeah,
you're thinking, like, how did I get here? Because I never wanted to do anything of it. Because of my experiences when I was younger, and the experiences of
well,
that thing attacking me from the paranormal investigator that sent it. The last thing I wanted to do was deal with this kind of case.
yeah,
We were going because we were just trying to help Adam out, and we were learning a little bit, but he was taking the brunt of everything and doing the hard stuff. How did I suddenly stand next to him, and I'm reading a copy of what he's reading, and it was bizarre because you don't know how you got there. You went from like little league to the major leagues, and you don't remember everything in between
but I
because
think
it's
too,
people are drawn in. It's a calling, but sometimes you don't realize you had the calling until you've answered the phone, hung up, and you're already doing it. So what's hindsight?
I think you're such a nice guy too. And I know with me, it's if I hear a kid is involved, it's like, oh, and nobody knows where to turn to, and you think, well, where do they turn to? Who else does this? It doesn't have a 4-year waiting list. You
I
go
try to help as
to,
many people as possible, whether they contact me, through email or through text. I'm still dealing with all my cases, but if I can just, I may not be able to go out and help. But right now, we have 2 cases that my group is handling that we're not going to be able to go out physically, even when things kind of clear up a little bit with
yeah,
the situation, because they're like one's in St. Louis, one's another part of the country.
right.
We're not going to be able to go out there, but we can certainly do a lot of help and prep work, and then hopefully find someone out there that can then pick up the ball and keep running with it. So we're educating the clients, giving them things that they can do, because a lot of the stuff is relies on them. It's in their house. They're going to have to, if we remove something from their house and get it to leave, it's going to stand outside and wait for them to let it back in again. And we're educating them to know how not to do that.
Well, I want to talk about the different kind of entities and the progression of them, but what would you tell them to do now if they're listening to this and they have an issue, they have a problem? What would you say to do? I mean, I tell them to keep a journal, but
Keeping a
yours is going a
journal,
lot further than that.
yeah, keep a journal is really good because it's not only helpful for them, it's helpful for any investigator that comes in, whether it's a paranormal investigator, whether it's clergy, whoever it is, because they might see, when I'm reading a journal, I'm reading it totally different than a normal person would, because I'm looking for patterns that you may not be aware of.
Hmm.
And so I tell them, write down even the things that seem, minuscule and not important. That may be the piece that of the puzzle that opens everything up. So, write down everything that you can think of, and don't be afraid to write down the things you think are stupid or embarrassing, because I need to know everything possible. And so is anybody else that's going to do this. Um, it really depends on what their belief system is, really. If there's a lot of people are, they say, I don't believe in organized religion, which means they were alienated by one of the major branches.
Yeah.
And I don't want to pick on anyone in particular, but it was probably something they were forced when they were younger, and then they kind of rebelled. But they still hold the Christian beliefs. But they don't, when you dig deeper, yes, they still believe in that. So then I'll give them, something like the hedge prayer. And there's a bunch of different ones for personal protection and for like a location. They're very, very effective. And doing simple protection prayers like the protection prayer for St. Michael. Very simple, very short to the point, but very powerful. There's other religious
Great.
things like scapular, St. Benedict medals, things like that. But when you get out of that realm, when you're dealing with people who definitely they don't have anything they focus on, or there's Native American, Wiccan, all those things. Even I have to I won't get involved deeply in a case that's Wiccan or Native American, simply because that's not my belief system. I'm going to be pretending to, and if I do anything, I'm going through the motions, reading from a book, exactly what I tell people not to do. If you don't believe it and you don't know it, get some help. So, like in my team, I do have people who are Wiccan. So they go to the front. I'm the person standing in the back, maybe holding the smudge wand and handing them stuff, because that's their forte. They understand it more. It's their belief system. Native Americans, we get a lot of that around here. There's other groups that have Native American members that understand it and know how to do different rituals and help. So my team completely hands it off.
Yeah.
Simply because when I was younger doing this, I've made a lot of mistakes. That's why when I teach people and I do my classes or through the book, um, I tell people I'm giving you like a roadmap of where some of the landmines are. So I'm telling you, don't step here, don't do this. If you do, you're going to get blown up too, like I did. Um,
Right.
I did a Native American case before, and we went and did a tobacco offering. Like someone gave us instructions. See, there's that sound that I told you was eventually going to happen, even though everything's muted. Um, so we went and did it. They typed it up, sent us an email exactly what to say and what to do and where to put the tobacco offering and what to do, and all we did was make it worse,
Yeah.
because we were reading from a paper, throwing down tobacco on the ground.
Right.
Basically, we didn't. Our intent was there. We intended it, but with that was more of a mockery, because we didn't have that belief system, and it was a personal affront to them. So the activity actually increased, and we were shocked because we thought intent was everything, and in most cases it definitely helps. But in
Yeah.
Native American especially, it's an affront to their beliefs, and it's almost insulting that you're doing it, because it's making a mockery of it.
Well, I had a problem out at the David Stewart farm, with a lot of the Native Americans here, and they were Lenni and Lenapes.
Hmm.
I mean, some of them were nice, and they told me, and some could speak English. And I got a friend of mine who is a paranormal investigator, but a descendant of Lenni and Lenapes, and he went out there with me to the back 40 and just said, "This is my friend Laine." And he had a little ceremony and just kind of
Yeah,
made it all
sometimes it's as
sense.
simple as that, and
Yeah.
it's understanding that, not letting ego take over. When I how I approach cases, some people, even my own investigators, get frustrated because they're saying I'm going so slow. It's like when someone calls me, no, I don't run out to their house, because I don't know what's in there. I
Right.
don't know anything about them, the situation, or the spirit there. That's just not smart.
Well,
And it can blow up in your face. You need to get the information from them as much as you can. We go out and we visit them and sit down with them, because you want to look at body language, mannerisms, get more information, then step back, look at everything, and figure out what your next step is, because every single case is different. It's a different spirit, it's a different person, it's a different location. So there's different factors that play into it.
Well, let me ask you. We talked before about a progression from infestation to oppression to possession, that it works in that way. Um, I think we've talked not in this, but offline
Right.
about all of this. And there's a spectrum of negative entities. Can you tell us about them? Like, and do we all see them the same way? Because I'm really afraid of spiders, and it started with you're around my age. We watched Gilligan's Island growing up, probably, and there's that
Yeah.
big spider in the cave, So now when I'm out and I'm scared and they're there, the dark entities, they look like this entity, this big spider, but other people, other mediums don't always see them the same way. So I didn't know if we saw them different ways, or what is the spectrum? I mean, where does it
It's
start and how far does it go?
it's first of all, let me clarify something with the mediumship, so I can get the mediums all mad at me. Um, I would I would categorize my abilities as mediumship as well.
Yes.
So I'm speaking as a medium in this case.
Yes.
We are not 100% active. If you believe you're always right, you're just fooling yourself. And that's what the dark side will take advantage of,
Yes.
because they know that whatever they show you, it's like it's a projection. It's
Right.
Ed Warren had a specific name for it. But it was basically they're allowing you or making you see something that's different than what other people are seeing. And because you're so confident in your abilities,
Mm-hmm.
that's what you, oh, it's just a little old lady. See the little boy just standing there? He used to live here. But they don't see the projection behind it. And that's what the
Right.
discernment kind of does, where, and it's discernment doesn't happen all the time. Sometimes it happens at the most inopportune times when you pull up somebody next to in a car and you look over and the face starts contorting and twisting and you realize there's one of them. But it allows me to see what's there in its true nature. And unfortunately, you can't unsee that. So
But
it's a lot of mental scarring going on.
I
But
tell people they have to feel instead of see. Would
right.
you agree with
And
that?
so even the
What is it?
feeling can be
Feel.
off because it can
Really?
manipulate you to feel anything. And what they want to do is if they love it when a medium comes in, and there's a lot of groups that the medium is out in front and they're the ones that the group relies on. If they can fool the medium, the rest of the group might not even take the case, or they'll go in thinking it's a green flag case, and that's lining up a buffet for this spirit.
Mm-hmm.
So it's you can't just rely solely on that. You, I don't rely solely on my discernment. I don't walk through a house, not see anything, and assume there's nothing there.
Absolutely.
I'm one person. I don't have that ego problem.
But
But
if you,
go ahead. I'm
I was
sorry.
saying, if you do see the little stuff running around, I mean, could it appear? I mean, could it project itself to me differently than it projects itself to you at the exact same time? It could do all of that.
Absolutely, absolutely. And so, like you have the fear of spiders.
Hmm.
You know, that's in the little field guide to Laine that the demons have. When they go to the chapter of how to get to you really quick, it's spiders. So they know that that's something that's going to trigger you immediately, knock you off your game a little bit because of the fear, make you take that step back. And that's all it takes. So it's, I've been on cases where all three of us have seen, or four of us in one room have seen totally different things. And that's where I can compare. Like one person saw like a child, another person saw like just a shadowy figure. I'm seeing this thing. And then another person's not seeing anything at all. So it's how it wants you to perceive it. Um, the discernment just kind of cuts through some of the masking and allows you to see sometimes the behind the curtain of what's going on. Um, yeah, it's helpful and terrifying at the same time. I like to be able to use it when I'm dealing with clients, but I would love to be able to shut it off when I'm not on duty. Not have it just
Right.
always there. But those little guys, talking about the little guys, that's kind of how it starts. An infestation, unfortunately, the initial parts of the infestation start like every other paranormal case. Um, I usually use some movie references, but I don't want to spoil a movie if they haven't seen it. But there's a door opening and closing by itself, keys being moved to a different part of the house, a smell of like sometimes it's smoke, sometimes it's perfume, cigarette smoke or something like that. That sounds like a typical haunting that a paranormal group might be called on. They don't know that that's just the thing ramping up and starting out. It's starting out by making the people feel like they're not alone, that someone may be watching them, maybe a little uncomfortable in their home, to already terrified by that little small amount of stuff that's happening. Because I mean, to us, it's normal. To someone who's not into this and doesn't do this, even the smell of smoke in their house and a door opening by itself is terrifying. So now they move to the next stage, and that can the spiders, the little imps. You hear about the flies all the time, the bugs, mice, infestation of any kind of thing that's gonna it 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 lowers your quality of life mentally too. Now they can slide into the oppression. It's a slow process. And that's kind of why I think I take it slow too, because they're not rushing in as taking over. They were always there and working slowly to get you to the point where now they can start affecting you more, and they become a little bit bolder and bolder towards the end. But when they start getting in your face bold, maybe appearing as something bad, or um, it's almost showing signs like possession, but not all the time, that's the end of oppression. And that's when the danger is, because you're not that far away from possession, which still is rare. I mean, most cases, it's it winds up staying more in oppression state, and I think it's because there's some enjoyment on their part. It's like they have nothing but time, so even if the end game is to go for possession, they can just play with their food as long as they want. And so to watch people, especially people that do have belief systems, stray away because how could this possibly happen to me? Yeah, I'm saying my prayers, I'm going to church, and
Right.
it's still happening. That's the mental part of it. People just they don't understand that they may have done something to allow this inadvertently. Some people do something that they should have known better that can bring it in. So they've given it permission to be there. Without taking back that permission, you can go to church, you can pray, but because our free will is recognized and honored, sometimes the good guys that would be coming to the rescue may stand off to the side because they're waiting for you to exercise your free will and tell it to go. You exercised your free will letting it in. So they need that permission and that authority to come in and then fight on your behalf.
You
So
know,
it's very complicated, the layers of it.
and we've talked about this before, and you had the
Hmm.
story of the one woman who's like, I'm a Christian, this can't happen to me, and but I have these scratches, can you make it go away?
That's great that you remember that story. That makes me feel good that when I teach using the stories and talk about it, that people remember the stories. Yeah,
Definitely.
on top of it, her fiance was a minister. So I mean, he's doing what he could do. He's the one that called us because he said there's nothing more he can do, and it was kind of out of his league anyway. But he did everything right. The prayers, working with her, but she was stuck in a loop, and that was a we. I think that was the case we did with Adam Bly, and it got us to the point where we were almost yelling at her because it's like, look, you have scratches on your leg. You're saying the demon's doing it. We agree because we watched the scratches appear out of nowhere. So we're with you on that. Um, but you say it can't happen because Jesus loves you. And we're not debating whether Jesus loves you or not. He loves you. Let's go there. Jesus loves you. The demon's attacking you. They're happening at the same time. They both exist. Even though she was experiencing that, she just was adamant that it couldn't happen because Jesus loved her. And there's nothing we could do because she was not going to accept or allow help because she was caught in this loop going back and forth. And until she broke out of that, um, this thing had her, do whatever it wanted with her because she was going to allow it. But it was the trick of the allowing it was her faith. It was using her faith against her.
And years ago, I told Chris, I said, well, the litmus test is Jesus Christ. And he looked at me And he's a patient man. He has to be living with me, but he comes from a Jewish family. And he said, don't you think anybody with other religions happen to have negative entities around them? And such
It's
a,
not exclusive to
so
Christianity.
I was like, well, you put it that way. Yeah, of course. But so when I started doing research, I found it that even Satanists have a ritual for exorcism.
I think there's one or two major religions that don't have anything. Um, Even some that they don't call it exorcism. It's a cleansing. There's a lot of different things, but they have that tool to fight against the negative energies or negative entities.
Right.
Um, we I've been involved with cases that were dealing with um, people of the Jewish faith. That was something that we got the information. We got as far as we could go. Then doing what needed to be done, that's not something we could do. So we gave our whole case file and all the information we gathered to someone who could. Um, I even had a case that was voodoo,
Oh,
and people get freaked out because there's voodoo's bad, and no, it's a religion.
yeah.
There's bad sides and good sides to every religion. So we don't want to throw stones. you know, we all got bad things that happened. Um, so we went there, we visited with them. Something happened right in front of us, and it was something really strong. So I got home and I contacted. There happened to be, luckily for me, in Philadelphia, there was a voodoo church. So I was actually able to uh, call and talk to that I don't remember her title, like Grow Mamba, something along those lines, who the head of the church, and they were willing to help this person, and I put them in touch with each other. So
What
it's that again, knowing when you're out of your league, but you still want to help the people. There's still something you can do. So you just walk up to that line and then you hand the ball off.
what happened in front of you that you saw that you knew that this was just out of your
A little girl was seeing it most, and she was sitting on one end on the floor on one end of the couch, and she suddenly got fixated on the door, and you could see her. I mean, she went white with fear, and I did too. And the person next to me, it was just an overwhelming sense of fear. And suddenly, the couch, I guess, was about 6 foot long. She was drug across the floor in front of us, and
oh
it was like, again, most of this stuff, the bad stuff, usually likes to work more at night in the dark. This was, I mean, it was maybe 2 or 3 hours before sunset, but it was a very bright room with sun still coming in. And when that was happening, and the
hmm.
one woman who was standing behind me, actually looking more towards the door, she saw what was there, and she described it like as like a 5 foot tall gargoyle kind of thing. And that obviously that was what the girl was seeing. When the girl got terrified, it just shoved her back across the floor. And that was, we didn't need to see much more than that to know that we got to get help as soon as possible. But this isn't a case we can do anything about.
Well,
We can throw holy water and we can ask for Jesus to come in, or Saint Michael, and maybe they would. But it's more likely that dealing with the person's belief system that they can get behind and totally believe is going to be more powerful than us imposing our belief system on them. We're not looking to convert people over to any religion. We
right.
have to go with what they believe.
You know, I guess that goes back to what I've said before. If I go to somebody's house for dinner, I can kick out another guest and say, you need to leave. I don't like you here. But if I leave, then what's to keep them from coming back? So people need
Right.
to have that buy-in. It needs to be, and
There's some actually house blessings, and it's part of some the exorcism rituals or deliverance that the people have to. I make them verbally say it, that they relinquish any authorities or requests that they've allowed something into their life. They have to let them know that they are totally. That's not the case anymore. This is they want it out, and they have to say it. Um, if they don't, exorcisms aren't always effective. If the person isn't actively participating for whatever reason, then it's a ritual. It may work, but there's a lot of times that it's many, many exorcisms to get it to work, because you have to get that person to the point where they're just going to say, okay, enough is enough, get out.
And do you find it sometimes that people, they want to know what it is, but they don't really want to let it go? I mean, they say they want to get it, let it go, but it's just, it's, I don't know what it feels like. If it's too much of a loss, if it's like not having another drink for an alcoholic, but they just don't want to really let it
It's, and you know what, it's all of the above. It's like it's personal reasons. There's been instances where they've done something that maybe was the key that allowed it in, but it's nothing that they've ever said out loud to anybody, certainly not strangers, certainly not to someone, if I don't often put the collar on. I don't walk around like that. Um, but when I'm doing something, where if I'm doing like a solemn exorcism on someone who's, Christian, I may put it on because it's a comfort for them, and it feels like it's armor for me.
right.
So, but when they're not there like for confession, and if they haven't already confessed it and they're keeping it deep inside, that's something that's the thing that's allowing it in. So they're not going to let it go, or maybe it's giving them a little bit of you know some abilities. Maybe they kind of their psychic ability or their mediumship is enhanced a little bit. uh,
Right, right. I think that has a lot to do with it
we
sometimes.
had one person who was he was diagnosed with terminal brain cancer. I think he was the final stages of it. They had given him a couple months, and that was 4 years before we met him. He was in a car crash that the car was destroyed, and he had an arm that was he couldn't really use anymore, but he should be dead. There was no way he survived. He was crushed by shipping containers that weigh, lots. When they're filled, it's tons. You're not going to survive being crushed between them. He did. Um, so he was kind of keenly aware that his his mother and his girlfriend wanted it gone. Yeah, and he was going to play along. But and he was a gang member, a former gang member. He was reforming himself. He was going to church. He was trying to do what they wanted. Um, and I believed he did believe. He wasn't just going through the motions with that. However, sometimes you just get the intuition kicks in, when you're talking. So the first question I asked him is, how many people have you killed? And he didn't miss a beat. We had a very strange conversation, and everyone in the room on my team and his family were just like, kind of like staring, like waiting for something to happen, because this wasn't the conversation you necessarily had with this guy. But he it was like 5 people he killed, but 2 were in self-defense. So he had asked for forgiveness for the 2. He was young. He's young and stupid. He was the local, I don't want to say mafia, but the local groups like that would pay the kids to do some, violence, because they were underage. They were going to get juvenile sentences. They weren't going to be charged as an adult, so they would be paid nicely, or given something that the kid valued, and they don't have the same morals or concept, when they're younger. Um, but the other 2 were self defense, and again, like that intuition just kicks in, and I said, drive-bys, it's not a self defense thing. It's a war thing. You shot, they shot back. Your bullets hit. That's not a justified self defense kind of thing. And I talked to him, um, tried to explain that to him, but he was that wasn't going anywhere. Um, so we tried. We did do one one deliverance, and his arm that did not move because of the accident suddenly became very strong to where it needed a couple people to help hold him down, because I'm standing in front of him. I'm kind of vulnerable. I'm either holding something in my hand or reading. I'm not in a position to start defending myself. So they were holding him, and he was struggling, and then suddenly it just stopped. And I think most people would go, "Oh, look, the prayers and the exorcism or the deliverance worked." And no, it didn't. It was just done for today. Come back next time. We'll go again.
Yeah.
Then walking out the door, though, see a little scroll sitting on a shelf. And it's just, again, one of those things just calling to you that, being, you got to snoop. So I picked it up and I opened it up, and it was all like the Lesser Keys of Solomon, how to summon and control demons. And I'm like, what's this? And they were, oh, it's a protection thing. It's like, well, unfortunately, I know what that is. So we're done here. Don't call us. Yeah, we're out of the picture. Sorry, I got something popping up on my screen here. Um, and we had to walk away. But we're walking away knowing that that person needs help, but they're not allowing the help to be given. At that point, you're putting yourself in danger every time you go to those places and do stuff like that. I'm not willing to put my life or any the safety of anybody in my group on the line for someone who I know actively is not fully committed to what's going on.
Right.
So I mean, it's terrible. Some people look at you like, how could you possibly walk away? You had to fight the enemy, and it's like, no, the enemy is working with the person because the person wants them there. Anything I can do is not going to be successful because even if I got it to go, they are going to let it right back in.
Yeah.
So what's the point? Why put myself out there for something that's going to come right back because they want it there?
Absolutely. And that brings me back to the negative entities and sort of a spectrum. Um,
Right.
because I've worked with Patty Wilson, who also worked with John, and um, she explained to me, you got to know what you're dealing with. You have to know, you can't just go scream at something that's needs that energy and will feed off of that energy. So when I'm out there, I have an angel and I'm being fed information on what to do. So for example, on the Ghost Brothers, a lot of people think that just because I was screaming at this thing that's the thing to do, and that's just sort of the opposite thing to do. Um, in most cases, I would guess, but I don't really know myself how to differentiate between all those different levels, different entities. Um,
I mean, I categorize them more generally.
do you?
Um, and all of them can feed off anger and fear. Any negative emotion is fuel for them. So it's like no matter how angry I am or upset, I have to compartmentalize that and put it away. And I think some people are better at it than others. I learned that from the law enforcement period of my life,
Yeah.
where it's like your emotions and your fear and whatever else, when you're in the moment, that can't happen.
Right.
You can be scared, you can cry, whatever you gotta do afterwards. Whatever's
Right.
happening right now in front of you, you get it. So I guess I have that kind of ability to do that, but so I'm not putting energy in the feed for it to feed off of and come back. But there's like the wood ghosts, the imps. That's like a lower level demon
Mhm.
or entity. Um, some people call them, the low level nature spirits. There's many different names for them, but they're more of an annoyance. They're there to scare you, to get under your skin. It's like having a squirrel in your garage, or raccoons and scratching in your ceiling. Something that's going to be, it's annoying, and sometimes it's scary. Not necessarily super dangerous, but enough to really, like I was telling you earlier, degrade your quality of life, make your home not feel like your home a little bit. Um, then there's that whole range of the what's considered the demonic entities, and they're all shapes and sizes, different forms. And it seems to me, and I had asked John this before. It's like, do you think they specialize? Are they like the specialists? Like, for this person, we need to call this guy in.
I know. That's what I was
It's
kind of thinking.
it really seems like that's the case, honestly.
I know.
Um, the next major step, I would say, beyond that is when you get to something that's not a demon, because there is hierarchy. It's like the angels, the choirs of angels.
Right. Right.
This is the same thing. There's ones up, but I kind of simplifies it with the lower level entities, then the demons, then diabolical entities, which are devils. There's there's the devil, and then there's devils. They're like the bosses, the capos of the running the show. When you're dealing with one of them, you just increased everything, the danger, the how hard it would be to get rid of it, because you're not dealing with a demon which in itself is super dangerous and super tough to get rid of. Now you're dealing with something that's 100 times more powerful. um, Unfortunately, the case that the entity that was coming after me, that's been, coming and hitting different cases that I'm on and everything,
Yeah.
that is a diabolical entity. So that's why I think it's appeared so many places and constantly popping up just to say, hey, still can see you. you know, that kind of like, I see you stuff, that just let me know, waiting for you, make a mistake, just make a mistake. And after, I mean, that's really whenever people say, well, it's the even in the movies, you say it's the devil himself. I don't think the devil is multitasking and actually showing up at people's houses.
Right.
Um, you know, it's more of a, he's got these people out there working for him, and that's good enough. Maybe there's a guest appearance for some certain people, but other than that, I don't think it's something that happens regularly. Of course, the demon's gonna. If you ask for its name, what it's going to tell you one of the most terrifying names, and that's one of them. And then you have all the other ones that are, I don't want to start naming names, but you have all some of the
I
big
know.
demons and stuff, or that you hear in the movies and everything. And it's something that like triggers a fear response in you, and that's the idea. And
Right.
if you don't understand that, like, I've heard them say it was, Lucifer. You know, to me, that's a name that you're giving me. They're liars.
Right.
Why am I going to believe what you say? So I understand that already. I'm not believing anything that they're any information they're giving me.
And
So
when you were talking about, the little ones and ramping it up, I feel like it's, they do the little stuff first, the infestation, and that gets you a little agitated. But basically what you're doing is that energy of agitation is like the hors d'oeuvres. And then
exactly.
you have your oppression, then you're really, going crazy, and you've got your entree served so they can feed off of that.
Even the people that don't know that it's happening are inadvertently feeding it the whole time. And they don't notice quite often till it's really middle or late stages of depression. And then we have to go back when we're doing our interview process and talking to them, and we have to walk them back. Because sometimes they'll say, well, it's just started 6 months ago. When it turns out, when we finally talk to them and know what to ask and walk back, maybe it was 5 years ago. And then what happened 5 years ago? What changed? What was different? And we try to find that, because maybe we can find if it's an object, that's what I search for, an object or a person, something that we can fight against or remove. Um, because that's, if you can remove something that's an attachment to the object, it's just taking advantage of anyone that it's near.
Yeah.
Removal of the object can potentially solve the problem, or at least lessen what's happening there, and we're removing layers. um,
John and Rosemary's book talks about that, and we've had to deal with a lot of this, and you've had a lot of objects that have just really shaken up the place. What would you say? Can you name one of the ones that?
the most recent one, and this is how, I guess, I want to say crazy, but strange things get when you're doing this kind of work. We were doing a house blessing that's basically a minor exorcism. And we got to one place, it was a closet that had a little panel that slid off. And then you were in this weird open space behind a wall. But on the other side of the wall is where all the bad stuff was happening. So this seemed like it was the staging grounds for everything. And I started doing the prayers, and something just shoved me right in the chest. I didn't move, but it was like just this wave going through me, to the point where I stopped the words. And I had someone with me, and I usually have them with the same thing I'm reading, and he just picked up right when I stopped, because he saw, and he continued on. And then when I was ready, I gave him the nod, and we handed off again. But when we turned around, there was like a 3 foot tall clown doll that was on the other side of the bedroom, standing behind us. Like, it gets weirder. We came out and we told him, hey, the clown doll was standing behind us, and we kind of just laughed it off, and we left. We left the clown doll there. The clown doll that moved on its own while we were doing the blessing and to get at us, we left it there. And we didn't realize that till I think we were there another time and we didn't see it. The next time we went, we realized there's that clown doll. And then he started saying, yeah, my girlfriend saw it move. I saw its eyes move. And I'm like, how did we not? How did all of us as a team, there was like maybe 8 or 9 of us, how did no one say, we got to take that the first time? All of us were that manipulated and like the
Right.
fog, brain fog going over,
Right. Right.
that it didn't cross our minds, which is a basic kind of, demonology 101 thing. That's got to go. Um, so this time we took it out of the bedroom. I laid it on the floor and I actually laid a blessed and exercised St. Benedict cross on its chest. And we went about the house again doing another minor exorcism. And 2 people went upstairs to get something because we were all in the basement. And they came back down saying, you got to come up because it was laying down. It was just laying with its arms by its side, its legs by its side, and I put the cross on top. And when we we came up, the arms were straight up in the air, so it had moved its arms. And I had some new people that were with me that didn't have all the experience I did, and they look at me and they sometimes your poker face doesn't work because I don't like clowns.
I
Clowns
don't
aren't
like
my
that
thing.
either. I
So
don't like
now I got
dolls either.
a clown that I already know something's there, and it came up behind me. Now I have a cross on its chest and it's moving its arms. Um, yeah, it wasn't a fun experience. So we did take it that night, um, and almost got very very injured trying to get rid of it.
Really?
Yeah, we normally try to put it in a body of water and like sink it to a body of water. So there was rivers close by to where this person lived, and it was low tide. And unless we could throw it 30 feet from the bank, we weren't getting into any water.
Yeah.
So I took it with me because Philadelphia at the Delaware River. So we did a binding on it, wrapped it all up like we would normally do, and I went to go throw it in a spot where I didn't have to worry about any fishermen fishing it out, including me because I fish the river too. So I climbed up a little embankment, like a little rocky cliff, to throw it. And when I was stepping to throw it, something just knocked my one leg out, and I went like sliding. I managed to grab a branch and it stopped. But when I threw it, it didn't go as far as I had wanted, and it went like boom, and it was still like visible from the surface. So I'm like, wow, I'm not going out there to get it. So hopefully, I picked a secluded enough spot, and eventually it's just gonna get covered up with all of the debris and sink down. It'll sink in the mud, but that was clowns. Of all the things, it was the one thing that I don't want to have to deal with ever.
Yeah.
And I had to do this little dance with this clown back and forth. But
Well,
very very strange because that's an example of trusting your vision, trusting your abilities too much. Like I said, 8 or 9 people did not think to take that doll the first time.
yeah. And I can understand it has this power over you. It's the entities.
And we have to make sure it's our ego that makes us weak. We got to go in and realize that at any moment, if it wants us gone, snaps its finger, we're just flying out the front door. You know,
Yeah.
we got to go in there protected. We have to go in there. I do things like a shield, a canopy, where I ask angels to come outside and cover the house above and below in like a bubble,
Right.
and not let anything in, but also, and here comes the crazy part for the people who don't do this, not let anything out either. So now we're trapped inside with it. So at least it can't run and hide, and it also can't get reinforcements.
Right. Oh,
So
okay.
we're hoping to get it to send it away, to at least have it forcibly removed. Because if something comes in when you're praying and you want it gone, I always envision there's angels that come and take it,
Yeah.
and then take it away. That's what we're hoping for. But and I didn't do that all the time either. That's something I grew into because your common sense and your brain and your survival instinct saying you really want to lock yourself in a bubble with these things,
Yeah.
because it's counterintuitive. But you're if it can't run from you, you're going to be more successful. And the worst place to be is when you're doing something like a blessing or anything along those lines, and it suddenly it lifts. It feels very, very good. And then you hear the footsteps on the roof or tapping on the window outside. And then you know, yeah, you got to leave the house,
Yeah.
but not the property, not the neighborhood. And you know that if these people don't keep up what you're going to give them to do and teach them how to help themselves, you're going to be right back there again.
Mm.
And I'll come back a second time. I'll help. But if I see that people are not proactively helping themselves, then I have to walk away because I'm just spinning my wheels.
I think I told you I helped a family and got rid of it, and I literally saw the angel come and the shadow against the wall as it went through
Mm-hmm.
the wall. But later that night, when I got home, my I was the only one at home, and the door to the garage, which was closed and locked, started. Somebody was just banging on it, and I thought this door is going to be bent in. There was so much banging that um, books fell off the shelf. I had a which is a witchcraft book that Rosemary gave me that she wrote that just fell on the floor, and I thought, you know, that's odd. And then a little bit later, a Bible fell on top of it, so I never knew what that was all about. But I did not open that door because opening that door would have been inviting it in.
Exactly.
Very scary
It's
stuff.
that simple little thing. It only takes one little thing to let it in. And once you let it in, you've given it permission. And there's rules involved, as crazy as it sounds. It's like legal things. When you're giving it permission, it has a legal right to be there. You then have to cancel that contract that you made to evict it.
I want to
If you
ask you about
don't,
those rules. I find that sometimes dealing with human spirits and getting rid of them is easier than dealing with demonics. Do you,
yeah, I think sometimes it's if you have a
I mean,
negative or
negative.
a
I mean,
bad
it's
human
harder.
spirit.
It's
Yeah,
hard to get rid of humans,
yes,
demonics. That's what I meant. I said it wrong.
um, it's because the human spirits, it's their free will.
Right.
You have to give them a better reason to go somewhere and convince them. It's more of a therapy sessions, trying to convince them and coerce them to go. But when you're dealing with the demonic stuff, eventually, if there's going to be intervention and the prayers and the rituals that you're doing are working, it's going. They have to leave. The little loophole is it doesn't say when, doesn't say how long, doesn't say after how many exorcisms,
Ah,
doesn't say immediately after you know its name or any of those things you see on TV. There's obviously in the movies it leaves because you got a what, an hour and a half, 2 hour time range. Of course it's going to leave.
right.
Most times it's multiple exorcism, multiple blessings, and things like on those lines. And if it leaves, it leaves, but it's not. I don't believe it's destroyed forever. And if there, even if it was, there's another one to take its place, identical to that, and it moves on. But it's rules like that. The rules of killing. They're not allowed to kill us, but they can certainly make you kill yourself or kill somebody else. And they can walk away. Hey, they took the pills. I didn't pour them down their mouth. And technically, they're right. They didn't kill the person. They drove them and convinced them this was the only way and this was the best option. And whatever they did visualize in their head for them to go finally that step. Um, yeah, and I've been there. That's actually happened to me at one point, and it's a bad place to be. But if I would have followed through, they were off the hook. They didn't do it. It was my hand. So the little rules like that, they're rules, but there's loopholes to the rules. They find a way around. Um, but it's that rule of engagement kind of thing, the
Yeah.
rules of warfare kind of thing.
It really is a battle of wills.
It's
If you can hold out longer than they can.
it's like a chess game and a battle of
Yeah.
attrition. And they're gonna try to take pawns off the table. They'll have you in
Good.
fight with your team.
Oh,
Um,
good.
the one case that we're still dealing with is very, very bad. It already involves one death and then multiple suicide attempts on the current client. Um, when I read a document a report that one of the investigators did, I just flew off the handle because it was like everything I say not to do, and even common sense would say not to do. So I ream this person out in front of everybody on like a conference call while we're on the in our cars driving there. Bad time to have an anger outburst. But then I got so angry and we argued so much. This lady turned around and went home. Was she the person that needed to be there the most? And then when I got home, I went back and read. It was an online document. I went back and read the thing again because I couldn't believe what she wrote. And she never wrote that stuff. Her report was nothing like what I read.
Oh, wow.
So it did something like that to make sure she didn't. Now it took me. I'm not sure she still completely believes me that I read something different. Those words are not the words there because it sounds like an excuse or some fantasy. But that's the kind of stuff that they'll do, just to mess with you because now we were one less person, or that was the person that needed to be there. Any of the different factors, they've changed the dynamics of the team, so we're not the same team that was going there confidently with our numbers and the people there. So we're compromised.
Right. You know, I have another question for you that people come to me all the time and go, I think there's somebody following me or there's something evil. And I always say, okay, where have you been? Think back. And a lot of times they picked it up at a cemetery. I know they picked it up at a cemetery. And I had somebody call me, I guess it's been a year now, and her family has been plagued with the monkey like creature that I was mentioning before with the red eyes, and her little 3-year-old or 4-year-old is drawing me pictures of this thing that were just so scary. And she's like, children, we have full body apparitions of children everywhere, and they're some are playful, we hear them laughing, but there are many of them. And I'm like, okay, think back. And she's like, we've moved like 3 or 4 times. I think her husband was in a field where they just kept moving. And she's like, it's been probably 11 years. And I'm like, think back, what
Mm-hmm.
happened 11 years ago? And she's like, nothing, but we worked on our house. I'm like, maybe. And she's like, well, we needed a lot of fill dirt from this cemetery, the children's section of the cemetery. They took
Have you
all
ever
the
seen the movie Poltergeist?
dirt. Not in a long time. Is that what happened?
That's I mean that's yeah, they built the house on top of cemeteries there, and we
Okay.
encounter that a lot. South Philadelphia, most of it's built on top of old cemeteries
Wow.
because Center City was Philadelphia. Everything from the Northeast and South Philly was outside the city, so
But
that's where they put the cemeteries.
and this is dirt, no bodies, dirt
Right.
taken so the bodies could, and the kids
Well,
came with it.
there's rituals by certain religions that use the cemetery dirt. It has some kind of power. You have to ask yourself. We were just talking about this the other night. Why did they put cemeteries where they put them? The older cemeteries, when there was all wide open ground, they could pick anywhere. Why would they pick like the side of a hill or a rocky place or a place where it floods a lot?
Yeah.
They know that when they're doing it, but they were drawn to do it. Just like the Native Americans and other cultures, they were drawn to sacred ground. The energy was there, and in it, without knowing it, we picked these areas too because of the same thing. So that there is some power to that ground. But how I was trained, and again, this is going to go more towards the Christianity side of it, and the mythology, I guess, involved there. With um, they believe that cemeteries are a place where demons spend their daytime hours, and the reason why you smell the smell of death a lot on demonic cases is because they spend those hours in the coffins because we are made in the image of God. So if they can see the image of God slowly rotting away, that makes them it's a little homey place for them. They like that. Um,
Hmm.
so I'm not sure how much I believe all of that, but I do know that because of cemeteries have a lot of negativity because of the grief. Grief is a negative emotion. Um,
Right.
where can they hang out and watch people be that upset or that vulnerable? Um, it's a perfect place. So I've done cemeteries investigations, but we do a protection prayer going in, and then we do like a a binding prayer and a cleansing prayer on our way out. So when
Okay.
our feet touch the ground in the property, we've already done the protection prayer. On our way out, before we step out of the property, we do that binding prayer to keep everything from coming home with us. Now,
You even
nothing's
do that before
bulletproof.
you leave the house.
Yeah, that's when you have something like that. Yeah, you're, if it got that bad, that may be one of the situations where, um, I've had cases where we've had to tell the people to move. Um, I remember the first time, um, it was a case that John came down and helped us on, and he told them that because they actually invited it back. So it
Mm.
was the second time we went back, and but whatever was there was affecting them. It's kind of they invited it back because they were already being affected so much by it. It became like that circle. So
Yeah.
he pretty much told them that to leave and move, and it was a little more wordy than that, but it was and more colorful. But we were all stunned because it was the first time we ever heard. We didn't realize that was something you could ever tell somebody or say it out loud. But he was right. And there have been two other instances in the years I've been doing it where I had to have, that talk. I mean, one case I told the people the properties next door were abandoned and not for sale. The owners refused to sell to anybody. And I said, you might want to take that as a hint.
Yeah.
I said, if you can afford it, I would move, but do not sell this property.
I've heard of some places like that. I don't know if it's Harrisburg or Pennsylvania, I mean, or Philadelphia by the rivers.
Yeah, there's some it's bad ground is the best way
Yeah.
to put it. I don't know exactly what happened there. And it's not like in those cases where because we tried to consecrate the ground, but you're consecrating that like that property because that's where the client is, which means that's the legal area you're at, and the legalness matters in those terms. So our consecration kind of didn't go beyond the borders, which meant that it could eventually come back in and overpower that. So because it was on both sides, um, it's a bad it's a bad situation to be in. It's a bad feeling because at that point there's if they stay there, there's nothing you can do, and if they stay there, um, something bad's going to happen to them.
Yeah.
And you never want to be in a spot where um, something bad happens to your client because I've been there too. We've had a client die, and it was by suicide, but it was turns out he was talking to things in the house that he never mentioned. He mentioned it online in a weird forum that we eventually found. His wife found, and then she started filling in other little things that she didn't think were important to tell us, that painted a complete picture that he had an entity there he was working with, and apparently he had a hostage crisis. The police were outside. They were hearing people screaming for help. They heard one shot. They ran in, and he was alone in the house. There was no one else in there. There was no one there to scream for help.
So the police
So
were something that wasn't even there.
exactly, that freaked them out a little bit. Um, and of course, that doesn't make the police reports, you
Yeah.
know. Um, but it's an awful feeling to know that you always are guessing, did I miss something?
Yeah.
Now, I am 100% confident right now in this moment that we didn't miss anything. He just withheld the information. I
Yeah.
can't tell you 10 minutes from now if I'm going to have that one little percent doubt again that we maybe we could have saw something that we missed. And it's going to always be there because you take responsibility at some sense for the clients, even though you can't be emotionally attached. You can't have your cords there because then you're part of the problem. So you
Yeah.
have to be more. It's professional, but empathy. Empathy can't be there. You can feel sorry for them at a certain level, but you have to have that wall up. Otherwise, you're drawn into the whole situation and you're part of it. It's
And
tough things.
it's a tough situation. And um Gosh, I could talk to you about this forever. And I've learned so much from you.
I
Thank
told you once
you.
I get started, I just keep going.
There's one story that you told me that just gave me chills when you told it to me. And, as many crazy things that have happened to me in my life, with dark entities growing up in this haunted house or with ghosts. This is one thing that I haven't seen before. And it's the I don't remember if you drowned the Ouija board in water and it came back, or
That was the
that
that was the
story.
the burning one.
that
The
that's
client
the
did
freaky.
it. I've seen a couple things that have been destroyed come back, and it's disturbing for me to see that. Um, I'd like to say you get used to it, but in a way, I guess you become numb to it. Kind of like when
Yeah.
police officers, you see a lot of things, you become emotionally numb to it. But it's for the people that's happening to. I mean, that's mind scarring. They're never going to let that go. That's always going to be a way in for something too, because
Yeah.
that fear. But we had a client that they once eyes started turning black and they started talking in different languages and people in the house were trying to kill each other. They realized that maybe it was time to stop playing with the Ouija board. So they took it out front and they had like a little campfire, bonfire in their front yard kind of thing, fire pit, and they threw it in there and burned it. And the next day, it was on the front step, completely intact. And they knew it was their board because it had certain markings on it, I guess, that they could
It
easily
chills.
identify. And you know, I can't undo that. I can't rewind that. I can't erase that. That's always going to be in their head. That's how vulnerable they are. That it was something that powerful. I
Hmm.
mean, forget the black eyes, the talking languages. That seems like nothing. And when you see that it reanimated from being just complete charcoal to full. I mean, obviously it defied the laws of physics there, so you're dealing with something super super bad. So there was a clown doll, another clown doll that happened too, where the woman was she didn't like it, was freaking her out. She thought there was something funny about it, so she threw it in the trash. Her kids had given it to her, and the next day it was back on like the kitchen table. So she thought the kids took it out of the trash, and they saw it, they got offended, so they put it back. So she threw it in the trash again, and again it happened. It was back in the house. So she said something to her kids, and they said, We didn't even know you threw it out. We don't know what's going on." So she thought they were just messing with her again. So now she's a little more upset and angry about it. So she rips the arms and the legs and the head off, throws in the trash. The next day, it's fully put back together, sitting in the kitchen table again. So she buried it in the backyard. We had to dig down to where we could get to it, and we couldn't get all the way there. We got within a couple inches, and then we just poured a whole big bottle of holy water down to soak the whole area so it saturated down, and just buried St. Benedict medals in there and did a consecration of the ground and buried it back up, hoping that the next day the clown wouldn't be sitting on the kitchen table, But I wasn't super confident that it wasn't going to appear again. The thing definitely was 9 lives, definitely. But that's something again. That gets in a place in your mind where it just sits for a very long time, and you can't unsee it. You can't not think about it. It's going to live with you forever. And
I just heard about it and I still can't get
it's
over it. It's,
it's there's a lot of things that are scarring. Um, and when you're doing this, you're signing up because you're being scarred along with the people that are doing it. Because it's one thing to listen to me tell the story of it, because it's a story. When you're there with the client in the house, digging a hole in their backyard, it's way more real.
yeah.
When they're able to show you the Ouija board that they burned and you take it now to get rid of it, it's real, and you're touching real. And that's um it's still mind-boggling to me that I do this. And now I understand the calling, and it's something that I can't not do. I tried to walk away. And I was told a long time ago, you can try to walk away, and you may walk away for a bit, but eventually that phone's going to ring, and it's going to be a case that that you have to do, that you can't say no to, because
Mm.
it's a child involved. It's something that that you can really resonate with. and it's going to bring you back in, and it's going to happen every time. Once you're in and you're active, you have a wanted poster in hell in the post office. So it's like they're not taking that down just because you go on vacation a little bit.
That's right.
So if when people want to get into this, when they take my class, the first thing I ask is how many people want to do or get into this field doing the paranormal stuff or the nasty part of the paranormal stuff. And there's always people that raise their hand. Um, then I show them a couple video clips from my evidence locker. So you can't, no faces are shown. You can't tell location, anything, but you can see a woman that's um, being possessed. And it was shot by her friend, and they gave it to us to have us come out to the case. And I only show about 60 seconds of it. Then I ask how many people still want to do this. And there's always one person that still raises their hand. Then my next slide is the mental health hotline for University of Pennsylvania. I said, you need to contact them or go to a crisis center because there's something broken inside of you. There's something very, very, very wrong. Because I look at that and I listen to that question and I put my hand down. I'm not raising my hand saying, I want to do this. If you want to do this, that's not a good motivation.
Yeah.
There's a difference between wanting to do this and knowing that that's something you want to do. And a lot of those people do come up afterwards and say, they explain, it's like, I feel I've been drawn in. Suddenly I find myself getting these cases, or I've worked with somebody. And it's just that it's not that I want to, it's like I need to, in a way. I'm drawn into it. That's completely different than thinking, oh, this would be a cool thing to get into, or it sounds
Yeah.
interesting, or I got to see that for myself. That's when it's going to be trouble. So I really try to vet people that I bring in. I usually have to work with them for a long time doing the normal paranormal stuff before I allow them to come in. And then there's other people that kind of like, they walk right in because you know when someone is, it's almost like we speak a different language.
Yeah.
You know, like, hey, this person, you're meant to do this.
And I feel like too, it's not something, yeah, it's not something that I ever wanted to do, but when something comes along, I feel like I have to. It's
And
just that feeling like,
and that's what I
yeah,
think is the
I'll-
calling. I think
yeah,
that's what the calling feels like. You know, it's you know it's something you have to do. Um, and that overpowers a lot of the to me overpowers some of the common sense aspects of it, you know, because we're really running towards the horror story kind of stuff.
oh
Yeah,
yeah,
everything you see in the bad horror movies, you know, we're opening that door, we're walking in, and we're walking in of our own free will. I mean, that's just it's scary.
and I was told by an editor once, "Oh, you can't put that in your book. Nobody will believe it." I'm like, "But it really happened." And I'm sure you're the same way. You have stuff that is much worse than the movies
Oh
because
yeah.
nobody would believe it if
Let me
you
mute
put it.
that sound again. That's not
Oh,
supposed to go off.
sure.
Um,
Well,
it yeah, there's a lot of stories that a lot of times I'll be in the middle of even the interview where I just stop and pause because my brain's going, you know, let's leave that part out, or let's not go down that trail and talk about that. So I have to actually catch myself and realize that's something that maybe 10 years from now I'll be ready to talk about.
well, how about we have another one of these and talk about more stories?
Hey, I'm okay with that.
Yeah.
That's good to me.
Because um, I've taken a lot of your time, and I could talk to you like all night long. And as you know, as I've done before.
And I can talk all night long. So
That's right. So I would love that. I'd love to have you back.
yeah,
And we'll
definitely.
talk
Let's
more
do
about
that.
those. That would be fantastic. Is there anything that you would like to share with anybody?
I guess I have to do like the shameless plugs, right? Because that's necessary. Um, the Armor of God book, which I think you can see over my shoulder there. I have it on, and you have one handy too.
Get the
Um,
book, y'all. It's great.
that it is on Amazon. It's also on theghosthunterstore.com. The other two books right now I'm doing second editions of, so I pulled them down off of Amazon. The Armor of God's also Kindle version too, if you
Oh,
wanted to,
good, good. You just
because
got
I actually have the Kindle version on my cell phone. Because just in case you're not prepared, I got all this stuff at least with me. Um, but it's theghost hunter store.com. And if you have any questions, you need um, just to bounce something off somebody, about a case, I'm happy to always do that.
Thank you.
My name is the web address, so it's davejuliano.com. So they can always reach me off of that, or on Facebook. You know,
Just knowing
Facebook Messenger is great because it goes right to the phone.
and knowing that you're there has given me all the comfort in the world. It really has. I appreciate it.
There was people there. I'm sorry, the phone's ringing in the back, and I can't reach that far
Oh
to
no,
tell you.
that's fine.
The
Go.
people were there for me, and still are. There's people that I will call. John, Adam. There's and other people that I've worked with. There's people that so people now starting out or with less experience. Well, they feel, I guess, more comfortable talking with someone who's seen more. Not that my opinion is any more valid than anyone else's. There's no experts in this. There's more experienced people, but experience doesn't mean that you're an expert. So I can give my tips and how I would handle things or what I think's going on. And sometimes people just want to hear that from someone that's, like I said, been doing this a little longer. And since I had that happen for me, I want to always do that for someone else. And I make sure I encourage the people that I'm teaching or in my group that if someone comes up to you, you know, talk to them, try to answer their questions. And if the biggest thing is if you don't know, don't give them some, you know, answer you're making up or guessing at. Tell them, hey, why don't you contact so and so? Maybe they can give you a better answer. So I'm happy to do that because, like I said, it's paying it forward. People did it for me.
Well, thank you. Thank you so much. Thanks for being on the show today. I appreciate it. I know our listeners are really enjoying this, and I look forward to having you back again. We'll talk about more stories.
You're welcome, and I'll come back anytime.
Thank you. And for our listeners, for those who are watching today, thank you. Thank you for coming. As Dave said, you could contact him. His website is davejuliano.com or dj@davejuliano.com. I'm Laine Crosby at lainecrosby.com. Have a great month, and thank you for being a part of my community and making spirituality part of your life. I'll see you again next month with our next episode.